As a leader, here are 2 conversations that you should be having on a consistent basis. Before I dive into those, let me make a statement. As a leader, you should only do the things that only you can do. And you should never do the things that somebody else could be or should be doing. Let me explain that concept. Let's talk about these 2 conversations that you should have on a consistent basis. 1 is expectations, and 2 is the 4 Ds. Let's talk about expectations conversation at first. Here's what I know. My good friend Adam Carroll once said, uncommunicated expectations creates pre-planned resentment. And when we go into organizations all the time, we believe that expectations are not clear and or they are not aligned. How do we ensure that we are clear as a leader of what we expect of our people and that they are clear and aligned on what we expect of them? Vice versa, how are we clear and aligned to what our team and our people expect of us? Because if we don't know those things, we will probably disappoint our people 100% of the time. It doesn't mean we're not trying, it's just their expectations are not what we think their expectations are, and we're doing things that aren't necessarily fulfilling or living into those expectations. So how do you gain clarity and alignment around expectations? Well, the first thing is for us as leaders to be crystal clear. What are those top 3 to 5 expectations that you have of your people every single day? Consider them non-negotiables. These are things that you want to show up every single day. I'm sure there's 100, but if you typically have more than 5 expectations that rise to the top, you have 0 because people just can't absorb them. So what are those 3 to 5 expectations that you want in your people? I'm not saying drop all the other 50 or 60 or 100, but what are those that you want to make sure are anchored into your people, that they understand, that continuously get reiterated? Those expectations, when they're clear and aligned, will allow your people to live into them and will create stronger working relationships, better engagement, more fulfillment, and most important, even better results. So once you're clear on your top 3 to 5 expectations, now you must communicate them. And you must communicate them on a consistent, ongoing basis. A lot of times we walk into organizations and say, yeah, we talked about expectations in January and we're in September. People forget. Life is noisy. There's a lot of different things that people are juggling mentally on a daily basis. It's easy to get off course if we're not consistently reminding, consistently showing appreciation, consistently holding people accountable to those expectations. It's like rules of the game. Rules of the game don't change. If you're playing basketball, you cannot run with the ball, right? You can't kick the ball. Those are rules that show up. When people do them, they're appreciated for them. When they don't do them, they're held accountable for them. These are the non-negotiable expectations, so you have to communicate them often. And the second thing you have to do is make sure that your people are aligned to them, which you have to make sure your people agree with those expectations. So that's the second step. The third step is to allow your people to communicate with you as a leader what they expect of you. And you can either live into those, or maybe they have unrealistic expectations of you. If they have unrealistic expectations, how do you level set? Because again, if they have those expectations and you don't level set those expectations, you'll never live into them and you'll be disappointing them on a consistent basis. So being crystal clear on both ways, what we expect of them, what they expect of us, and those become the rules of the game. Those become the way that we show up. Those become the way that we work together. Those become the way that we drive better results. So are your people clear? Are they clear on those expectations? If I were to ask you, what are your top 3 to 5 expectations, and you rattle them off, and then we removed you from the equation and we asked your people, would your people be saying the same thing? Would they be watching the same movie, as I always talk about? Would the televisions be on the same channel? If not, again, it's not an indictment. It's just, how can I level set? What can I do from here to make sure that, number one, I'm clear on what my expectations are. I communicate those expectations. I make sure my team is aligned to those expectations, and we live into those expectations. And I live into what they expect of me. That is one conversation that is a must-have, consistent throughout your leadership journey. The second one is what we call the 4Ds. Without getting too far into this, there are activities that everybody does. Now, I'm not saying that 100% of the things people do will be opportunity, which means they get to do these things. There's always a 20% suck factor. Adam Carroll, my buddy, said this too. He said, there's always a 20% suck factor in any job, any role, no matter how much you enjoy doing it. There's always things that just aren't necessarily the most fulfilling or the most rewarding. So there's of all the activities that you do or all the activities that your people do, they fall into one of two categories: opportunity or obligation. Let me define them. Opportunity means the mindset is, I get to do these things. They're good at these things. They enjoy doing these things. They're the most efficient, effective at these things. They drive results in the positive direction. Those are opportunity-driven activities. Obligation-driven activities are anything that drains their energy. They don't enjoy doing them. They might not be that good at them. Could be just negative relationships in the work environment that are going nowhere. Those are obligation. So the first thing that we do is we have, and thinking about this just for yourself, is defining of all the things that you do. What are opportunity? What are obligation? That's the first thing. The second thing we challenge people to do is, how can you reallocate time? You can't really buy back time, because time, you only have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But how do you reallocate the time and prioritize where opportunity-driven activities show up more than obligation-driven activities? And that's where we talk about the 4Ds. These are conversations that you should tap into with your people and truly understand what's opportunity and what's obligation. So looking at the obligation bucket, remember those things that they don't necessarily enjoy doing, it drains energy, negative relationships. How can you shift? Or are there things that you can do to shift obligation or remove obligation-driven activities so opportunity-driven activities can show up more constant? The 4Ds. Number one, are there things that you, just start with you, and then you can spread this to your team. Are there things that you could delegate? I know as a leader, that's my biggest headwind. And I will say, as a leader, most of our wounds are self-inflicted. I raise my hand when I say that. I am sometimes the biggest roadblock to progress, because I can do it better, I can do it quicker, I can do it faster, and I'm not allowing my team to do the things that allow them to be successful and allow me to reallocate my time to focus on different activities. I'll say that statement again that I said in the beginning. As a leader, you should only do the things that only you can do. You should never do the things that somebody else could be or should be doing. What activities, what things are you doing right now that you could delegate? Now, when you delegate, think about this. Sometimes your obligation activities are somebody else's opportunity. So you're actually setting them up for success. You're creating more fulfillment in their role, more engagement in their role. And when we don't delegate, we actually have an adverse impact in the way that they show up. We might stifle their growth. We might create a bad attitude. They might change their mindset in the way that they approach their role. So delegation is key, and it's one of the important 4Ds. It's the first D. The second D is defer. How many of you watching this video right now have a to-do list? I don't care if it's an electronic to-do list, if it's on sticky notes, if it's on just a napkin, wherever it is. If you have a to-do list, you're probably like me. When you go to clean up that to-do list, there are things that continuously move from to-do list to to-do list to to-do list. They never get done. What we don't realize is it wastes mental space. It takes us away from doing the things that are opportunity. It drains our energy, even subconsciously. So how can you look at your obligation list, and are there things that you can defer? What I mean by that is completely mentally shelf them. And I don't know the time frame. It could be, this is not happening today, this is not happening this week, this is not happening this month, this quarter, this year, whatever it is. Just defer them and completely remove them from your mind. That allows you to buy back space to focus on opportunity-driven activities. So the second D is, are there things you can defer? I'm telling you, your mindset will challenge you, because you'll say, I can't defer anything, I can't delegate anything, but you really have to challenge yourself in this. The third one, probably the most difficult one, is, are there things that you need to delete? Are there things that you do every single day that just don't add value? Maybe they added value in the past, but they just don't add value now. So are there things that you need to delete? Maybe they're just in your comfort zone. I'm not talking about meetings or emails. Don't take this video just to take the liberty just to say I'm not going to show up at meetings or I'm not going to answer emails. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, are there habits or things that you do? We worked with an organization where we did a time and motion study for about 3 months, and we found the first thing that these people did when they walked into their office, this was pre-COVID days, this was like in 2018, the first thing they did is they sat down and they logged in and they checked their email. As we tracked their time, we found that 2 hours and 18 minutes, on average, 2 hours and 18 minutes, they were caught up in email land. And then everything was reactive. They were behind the 8 ball, and next thing you know, the day was over. Probably like a lot of us, they left the office and thought, what in the hell did I do today? So we challenged them for the next 3 months. After we did the first 3 month study, we challenged them for the next 3 months. For the first, I'm a big believer that if you win the first hour of the day, you win the day. And so how can you proactively get ahead of it? So I challenged them for the first hour, do not check their email. Well, that went over like a lead balloon. That's like I had 3 heads when I said that. So we negotiated, we said 20 minutes. For the first 20 minutes, instead of getting into your email, create your 3-pack. And what the 3-pack is I had them create, what are the 3 things that if you get accomplished today, you will feel like it's a productive day. That way at the end, they could audit it, they could look at it, they could see if they were productive or not. Not every day were they productive, but they could see, and they had goals every day, big or small, doesn't matter, whatever those items are, if they accomplish those 3 things, they would consider it a productive day. 20 minutes, that's it. And then after 20 minutes, they could jump into their email. So we did that for the next 3 months. And we did a time and motion study. What we found is that their results increased over 38%. Just by deleting that one habit. And I'm not saying that's right for you. I'm just giving you an example. Are there things that you are doing right now that do not add value that you need to delete? And the last D is do. Are there things that nobody else can do? It's part of your role. It's what you signed up for. And it's just something that shows up for you on a consistent basis. All you have to do is change the way you look at it. Change your mindset. Change your attitude to it. So instead of feeling like, because a lot of times the stuff that is obligation to us and we know we have to do, this is what happens. It happens to me, probably happens to you. I know I have to do those today, so I get in and I'll say, I'll do them by noon. And then noon comes and something takes over and says, I'll do it before I leave the office, or I'll do it before the day ends, or I'll do it before my shift ends, whatever it might be. And then the end of the day comes and the shift comes, and then next thing you know, it's on to tomorrow. And I just keep perpetuating it, and it never gets done because it's obligation-driven activities for me. I need to change my mindset. How do I do the worst first? How do I get that off my plate? How do I get it done? Do it that allows me, again, to be in a better space to do opportunity-driven activities that I'm good at, I enjoy doing, and drives the business or my results in the right direction. That conversation first needs to happen with you, and then you need to have that with your people and really understand what's opportunity, what's obligation, leveraging the 4 Ds and figuring out a better way for people to show up, create more engagement, create more fulfillment, and create better results. So again, the 2 conversations that are must-haves if you're a leader out there on a consistent basis is 1, the expectations conversation, and 2, the 4 Ds. If this message resonated with you, please share, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more.